Hey guys, this is Bharatwaj with Fonearena.com, and this is the Sony Xperia Z2 that we recently unboxed, the Indian retail box. And we've been playing around with the device. You might have already seen our review, but this video is going to be specifically about the camera because we haven't made a video about that. So this is going to be the camera review of the Sony Xperia Z2. As you know by now, it sports the very similar 21.7 megapixel sensor, 20.7 megapixel sensor at the back, the same as the Z1 and the Z1 Compact. But is it going to be better, or is there anything new with this camera? That's what we're going to find out in the camera review of the Sony Xperia Z2. So as mentioned earlier, this is a 20.7 megapixel Sony sensor. It's 1 by 2.3 inch type, which is pretty huge for any Android phone. This is the standard these days. Samsung Galaxy S5 has a 1 by 2.3 inch type sensor. The Xiaomi eLife E7 has a similar 1 by 2.3 inch type sensor, but with lesser megapixels, so better pixel sizes. But Sony has stuck with its formula. It's the same 20.7 megapixel sensor as the Z1 and the Z1 Compact, and it's pretty good. We've already established that the Z1 Compact and the Z1 had a really decent camera. So we're going to see how it is with the Xperia Z2. Let's start with the camera app here, which is going to be very, very familiar for all you Sony users, because this camera app, or rather the user interface, is pretty much exactly the same in various phones from Sony. So pretty neat interface. You have all these icons laid out, and currently it is in the superior auto mode, which can be seen on Sony's point and shoot cameras. You have the shutter buttons for the stills and video, the gallery thumbnail. You can directly go to the gallery from here, and you have the mode that is being currently produced for the scene. So that is predictive, and that's how the superior auto mode works. There are also other modes, but before that we can see that there are two toggles for the front facing camera and the flash, and of course in-depth settings here. So let's take a look at the modes in the mode dial. There are some things that are new here. So two things. One is 4K video, and next is background defocus. Yes, you saw that right. Even Sony has this background defocus mode that can take pictures and blur the background. I'll show you how it works, but first let's see 4K. 4K is the 3840 by 2160 resolution videos that Sony is popularizing in its TVs as well as in its camcorders, but this is the first time that's come out on mobile, and thanks to the Snapdragon 801 processor, the 4K recording is pretty smooth and not choppy, and it does record pretty well. We'll show you the sample later, but yeah, that is going to be the Sony Xperia Z2's 4K mode. Pretty straightforward. You have some settings, you have some control over exposure compensation, and you have the steady shot even in 4K, which is awesome, using the complete sensor for software-based stabilization, which works pretty well. We'll show you that too. So that's the 4K mode, and next is the background defocus. So this works pretty much like the software-based manipulation that you have seen. So you can actually take 8 MP photos, 16 by 9 or 4:3, or 2 MP photos. Basically what it does is it takes 2 photos. That's 1 and that's 2. So it actually takes a number of photos which you can't see, and then you have the options to choose to focus the foreground or the background, or you can also, this is the dial that you can use to, it's not really apparent in this picture, but you can really do that with other things which have the background. So that's the background defocus mode. It works pretty well, and we'll also show you a sample for that. So that's the background defocus mode. There is also the AR mode, creative effects, and then you have other plugins that you can install. This is pretty much like the Nokia Windows Phone's camera lens. You can basically do this right from inside the camera. You can take your camera to the viewfinder directly of Vine, a third-party app that lets you record all the 6-second videos and post it on the social network. So this happens uh, pretty much like Windows Phone takes you to the viewfinder. Of course, you can add more apps to this, and of course, you can go back to the same thing again. So pretty useful if you're into going into the camera interface and doing camera related things instead of going into a separate app. That's pretty cool. And there's also the other things like sweep panorama, time shift burst, info eye, social live, AR effect. All these things we have already seen, and you can also add more from the store, which currently does not work well. Well, we'll leave it to Sony to figure that out. But anyway, that's the camera user interface of the Sony Xperia Z2. It's pretty cool and pretty feature rich. Let's quickly go into the settings and show you all the other things that you have, and of course show you the manual settings, which is exactly the same as the Xperia Z1, which lets you change a lot of options. You can change the resolution. As you know by now, the resolution is dependent on the mode you choose. For example, you can choose 20.7 megapixel, but if you choose 8 megapixel, it's going to be oversampled in the superior auto mode and not oversampled in the manual mode. And this is for the stills. You can also choose for video, which is 1920 by 1080 in the normal mode. So you cannot choose 4K video from this option. You can only choose from the modes option, and you can take 4K video just like that. Else it's going to be 1080p. So beware, if you're shooting videos, then go to the 4K mode and shoot the 4K videos only if necessary. But yeah, that's how it works. The manual mode, that's the other interesting mode that you should take note of. Let's go back to Superior Auto and let's talk about the camera performance now. So we, as usual, took a lot of photos in several conditions in daylight, HDR. Actually, HDR is pretty interesting here. You can do manual HDR as well as do Superior Auto, which has the backlight mode and takes really good HDR photos by default. So we did just the same, and of course we are going to show you a lot of the samples here, so take a look at them right now. Well, as you saw from those samples, you can see that the Xperia Z2 has pretty much the exact same level of performance as the Z1 Compact or the Z1, but the colors seem to be slightly different. So algorithms have been tweaked to produce better colors and overall pleasant looking photos. But sometimes the colors are washed out, and sometimes the colors are missed in terms of exact rendition. So if you're looking to take the most accurate pictures, you have to do with different settings and different modes and make sure you get it right. But the one thing that's a big problem is that the Sony Xperia Z2 display is enhanced by the Bravia mode. So what you see in real is not exactly what reflects on the screen, but it does look very different on the PC screen. You can see how different the green is from the display and in real on the camera. So that's one disadvantage, we would say, if you're looking at accurate colors. But if you're looking at striking present colors, the Sony Xperia Z2 will be pretty good. And the best thing is that the phone has a hardware shutter key, two-step button, which is very rare on most phones except for Nokia's phones. So this is pretty good, and Sony has been maintaining it since the Xperia Z. The Z had it, the Z1 had it, the Z1 Compact has it, and the Z2 has it, which is pretty awesome. I use it a lot, and it's the best way to take photos on the phone. It's very easy to take it with a single hand since the Xperia Z2 is not that heavy or fat. So pretty cool, and yeah, that's how it is advantageous on this camera. Now moving forward to macro photos, the Xperia Z2 really excels in this department as expected. So as you saw, pretty brilliant macro photos from the Xperia Z2, very well bokeh'd, if I am allowed to say. The 1 by 2.3 inch sensor, which is pretty huge, allows these kinds of things, and pretty awesome for a camera phone in that sense. So macro is definitely a very strong point of the Xperia Z2. If you're looking at taking a lot of close-up range shots, then the Xperia Z2 is pretty awesome. And the focus works well too, so there you go. Now moving on to the next thing, as we said earlier, we didn't specifically try HDR, but we did try some really challenging highlight shadows conditions. So Here are some very high dynamic range photos from the Xperia Z2. As you could see, pretty good performance there. Not really the unnatural HDR thing, but it's very natural, and it has the details in shadows which we expect from an HDR photo. Now, moving on to low light, we do a couple of samples. First see them and then we'll talk about it. So here are the low light samples from the Xperia Z2. Well, as expected, very much expected, the details are completely missing there. Much like the Xperia Z1 and the Xperia Z1 Compact in low light, you don't have many details, but you get a usable photo. For example, I recently took this photo before taking this video. You can see the photo here, just testing out the details, and you can see there is literally nothing on the desk between the camera and the objects, but you still can see lines here even in the defocused video. But as you can see from this picture, you can't see anything in terms of details and they are completely lost. But still, it is a usable photo with respect to the crazy amount of low light condition it was in. There was literally no light, very feeble light coming in from the window. It's looking much brighter than what it was actually. So yep, that's low light for you. The low light samples are not really spectacular, but if you will get usable pictures with less details. So that's the Sony Xperia Z2's low light performance. Not really the best low light camera out there, but definitely really usable. So now moving on to video. This is the final department that we took a look at, and we were completely impressed by the 1080p as well as the 4K performance, mainly because of the image stabilization. What you don't see here is that how stable it can be. So I'm pretty much shaking the device like usual, but you can see the amount of shakes that you usually see are much dampened by the software image stabilization. This is steady shot from Sony's own technology. You can see the same amount of shake creates so much in the normal mode. But with steady shot, even though it is software based, it works really well even for 4K videos. So here are the 4K video sample and the 1080p video sample from the Sony Xperia Z2. Take a look at them. The audio is also pretty good, and see what you like about them.
Hey guys, this is Bharadwaj with Fonearena.com, and this is a video test sample of the 4K recording on the Sony Xperia Z2. Stereo recording and audio, 4K resolution. It's with a different mode as you saw in the camera review, but take a look at the details and look at the image stabilization here. Even though it's software based, it's actually pretty good. I'm actually walking around and there's literally no shake, not much anyway. So there you go, that's the 4K video sample. Look forward to the 1080p video sample next. This is the 1080p video sample of the Sony Xperia Z2. Again, superb image stabilization in software and really good image quality too, but it's cropped and the colors seem to be a little washed out even in the 4K, if you might have noticed, but still this is pretty good from the Sony Xperia Z2. Again, look at the audio quality here, pretty good. So yeah, that's the video sample in 1080p for the Sony Xperia Z2.
So as I just said, the 4K video sample as well as the 1080p video sample is pretty good. The details are awesome. Even though it is cropped, it has pretty good software image stabilization, and we really welcome that because videos are pretty awesome when they have no shake. So there you go, that's the overall look at the Sony Xperia Z2 camera in terms of the interface and the performance. You can let us know what you think in the comment section below. Our verdict is that the Sony Xperia Z2 is almost exactly the same as the Z1 and the Z1 Compact, but with slightly better colors and algorithms. We'll leave you to judge in terms of the samples. You can take a look at the samples, camera samples, right in the links below. It'll take you to the blog and you can see the full resolution samples and see what you like. So our verdict is that the Sony Xperia Z2 has a really good camera, pretty usable in low light too, and the video is pretty awesome. So that's about it. That's about it for the camera review of the Sony Xperia Z2. Do let us know what you think in the comment section below, and do hit the like button and subscribe button if you want more videos like these. Thanks for watching.